Hi, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Next Up. By now, you know the drill. It's a series where I interview young CEOs, entrepreneurs, and those in the know, covering all manner of topics that are relevant for young people today. Today's topic is authenticity in a digital age. And to discuss that topic, I have the wonderful Charlotte Williams, founder of 7-6 Agency. It's a marketing and now talent agency with positive messaging and inclusion at its core. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about the conversation.
7-6 Agency obviously has this incredible message of inclusion. What made you decide to start this agency now? It was founded in 2019, which is, you've now had a year of pandemic. So it's been quite probably a turbulent start, but why did you feel like it was really needed now?
I've always put together what I would deem as inclusive campaigns because it was just part of how I worked. And then in 2018, I went freelance and I was able to work with a lot more clients, which was really exciting. Never worked with that many people in such a small amount of time. But then also as an influencer, because I started that pretty much at the same time as I started my marketing career.
Yeah, you have your podcast and lots of fabulous things on the side.
Yeah, I was invited to more events, and because I was freelance, I was able to actually go to them rather than worrying about, my boss seeing that I'm out of work all the time and at fancy events. And I was just shocked at how everything was so homogenous. Everything was so one vision, one type of person invited. And I would often be invited to things. And I know that a lot of times I was invited to things because I knew the PR team. I'm a marketer first and foremost, and I've collaborated with a lot of brands, with the brands that I've worked for. So my little black book of brands is a big black book, which is really exciting. At the time, I thought, it's because I'm a great influencer. But
I'm so good at my job.
But it's not true. But at the time, I was like, this is weird because I've only got 5,000 followers. So why am I here with these girls who have 100,000 or even more followers on Instagram, who have this incredible reach? And then I'm the only person of color in the room, not just black person, but person of color in the room. And my reach is only 5,000. And that's just the demographics skew was just not.
It wasn't adding up.
Yeah. And in my head, I was like, wow, this is such a miss because I have read the stats. I am under the impression that inclusive campaigns, inclusive teams create better campaigns and better outcomes. So I was just like, wow, so this is just one person basically cloned 30 times, 50 times, 100 times. And I'm just the odd one out. So this wasn't just me, wasn't just my experience. I had lots of friends who had that experience, be that they're the only black person in the room, South Asian person in the room, plus size person in the room, LGBTQ person in the room. And we felt like we were representatives of all people within our minority group. And it just wasn't okay. So after a few complaints on my side, just constantly chatting to people, I don't know why this is happening, speaking to PRs and asking them after the events, why was I the only person of color invited? And it was, the answers just weren't good enough. It was a lot of excuses and a lot of just question marks. And I was just like, okay, I could probably do something about this, in the sense that I know lots of black and brown content creators. I know of a lot of content creators that are in minority groups. They're really good. They've got a much bigger reach and better performance than me. So let's just try and bring them in. So I launched the agency on that pretense to shake up the industry, but not in an aggressive way, in just a way that I knew was needed. And I wanted it to be a helping hand. So I could create a list for a brand for their event, or just help them create their strategy a little bit more inclusively and authentically. And that was just my vision at the beginning. And we've grown into that at a larger scale, which is really exciting. And then as we've grown, we've added on the talent management side, and we've started to do training. As the team's got bigger, everyone's got different ideas, and we've just kind of expanded really quickly and really excitingly.
You've grown pretty phenomenally, actually, in such a short space of time to also include talent. And I love that when you go onto your website, you provide all of these classes that are also highly affordable, on how to market yourself as an influencer, or how to kind of market for a brand. Which is obviously quite interesting when you yourself are an agency and you're trying to make money. Was this kind of part of the plan to make it as accessible as possible, because your experience had almost been inaccessible?
there's two sides. Education is one of our pillars. I have a teaching background. So I spent a year teaching when I lived in Portugal, just after graduation. So I think that's always kind of stuck with me. We predominantly work with influencers of colour who, until recently, haven't got a lot of work in general. So I'm very aware that there are a lot of influencers who are people of colour who don't have the same experience than maybe their white counterparts, in the sense that they haven't been constantly asked what their rates are, or they've been given jobs, so they don't know how the dynamic works between PRs and the marketers and the influencers. So we create events to ensure that they know how this works, and because of that, what we're basically selling is that anyone that's in our network that we work with is a professional. So when we say we can give you access to our 600 plus influencer network, we know that everyone in that network has had the opportunity to learn from us how to be an amazing influencer, how to do things properly, how to follow a brief, how to sort their finances out, all of this stuff, so that we know that we've created professionals. And then we feel confident that when we pitch to brands, they'll get a really good deal, because it's not just them paying for the influencer, but they're paying for a professional. So that's one side. And then on the marketing workshops for brand side, I'm very aware of small businesses and how they want to be involved in the conversation around influencer marketing and around the digital space, but it is really unaffordable for them. And I see a lot of people in our inbox who will email us and say, we've got £25 per influencers that we can or this, like, these ridiculously small fees that just don't match the industry. So we basically want to educate small businesses so that when they do grow into a larger business and they do have the budget, they know what they're looking for, they know what they're getting themselves into, and they know what they should be putting aside for budget. And that's all we're asking for. It's not, we obviously have workshops and training options, which are a bit more pricey, but again, they're still pretty affordable. We are very much thinking about education in a 360 way.
This past year, and especially, for a lot of kind of Gen Z and young people, has been particularly hard in the fact that obviously we've all been like locked in our homes, but we're now a year on from George Floyd. Black Lives Matter very much continues. The BAME community was really kind of put at the fore in the sense that people were really made to kind of internally think of their own dialogues, the dialogues within their experiences, their communities, their companies. Do you think that has changed the way that you've worked at all? Do you think the rest of the world is actually waking up to what you already knew before? Or were you kind of frustrated being like, this is just a conversation that should have been had?
I started the agency with this vision. The vision hasn't changed. It's evolved in terms of its like professionality, but it hasn't changed. And I feel like when I sit back sometimes and think about how we've grown and all the exciting things that have come our way in the last 12 months, I've always said the same things. Nothing's changed. The only things that have changed is maybe the confidence in how we talk about things and how I talk about things. Because at the time, selling diversity was really unsexy. Like, everyone thought they were doing it. Everyone thought that they knew what was going on. And it was just, some of the conversations I was having, it was just like, okay, yeah, but we're doing this already, so I don't know how this is needed. And now, roll on BLM resurgence in the summer, George Floyd's murder, everything that's come out in terms of the educational pieces, the PR pieces, the press pieces, and all these things that are happening internally within companies. People are like, oh, we weren't doing that. Oh, okay, now we need to do that. And it's just really funny to see the awakening. And what's exciting is we're here, we're still here, and we're able to kind of service you in that way as we did before. But nothing's changed on our side. The team's just got 3 times bigger.
Gen Z in particular are very quick to feel if a brand is inauthentic or they're giving a fake message. They're the ones calling out brands on TikTok, on Instagram. Do you think social media is still a really positive space, or do you think social media is negative? How do you kind of appear authentic on something that's already digital?
Social media has its good and its bad. We've all watched the Netflix show. We know how we're addicted to it. Because of the pandemic, I feel even more addicted, and even I can see my shift in understanding that even more. I think before I was kind of a bit like, oh no, it's fine. This is my job. It's fine. But now I'm like, oh no, it's not fine. Like, I have an addiction to TikTok in a way that other people have an addiction to probably drugs.
Screen time is a scary thing on your phone.
It's yeah, let's not talk about that. But actually, my last week, it went down by 6%, and I was like, yes, Charlotte, well done, you did it. It's important. It's still, everything is online, everything is digital, so we have to understand that whether it's good or bad or not, digital is everything.
It's here to stay. Yeah.
We have to kind of mold it in the way that we want to mold it. I think there's a lot of negatives with online, cancel culture, misinformation, freedom of speech. There's a lot of things that go on that are questionable and can be quite disastrous. Authenticity, it's not something you can learn. It's not something that you can create. It's just who you are. We're so focused on everything that other people are doing. We're so focused on the trends. We're so focused on popularity. We're so focused on numbers that we try to clone ourselves to be other people, to just do what needs to be done. But actually, we need to take a step back. Just don't do what they say. And I see my content as an example. I can use myself as a perfect example. I don't do things like reel videos or TikTok, because that's just not who I am. And that's just not, I do post reels, but they're not like me kicking a shoe. I was talking to my team.
Not doing the thing where, like,
yeah, this. And I just didn't do that. That's just not how I work. And someone said to me the other day, I'm in a transition. I'm trying to do less influencer work that's revolved around beauty and fashion and more towards entrepreneurship. It's hard because I keep getting dragged into the beauty scene and it pays bills. So it's difficult, and it's something I truly do love. But I was saying to my team, I was like, if I want to be in the entrepreneurial space on TikTok, I'm going to have to start doing this. And I was like, I can't. I'm not that person. And when I speak to, the teams at these platforms, are like, this is what you need to do. These are the kind of things you need to do. And that just doesn't work for me, and it will never work for me. So I know that my engagement will be lower because I don't do trend-led content.
And I guess the people who already know you and follow you, they'll be like, what's happening?
Yeah. And it's not for me, it's not even how people would perceive me. It's just how I would perceive myself. And that's not how I like to create content, but I will consume that content till the days go on. I love watching it. I just won't create it. And I think sometimes we have to take a step back and think, what is it that we want to put on the internet? What do we want to be known for? And it's easier said than done, but you can grow in so many different ways. If you want to be a super influencer and grow, like, you follow the trends, you post the content with the right sounds on, there's a whole formula to that. But if you want to be a creator that creates content for people to actually listen and to be with you, like, for a sustained amount of time, then maybe you have to figure out what your plan is. So it's a difficult space to be in, because we're always looking for the next thing. We're always trying to get the numbers, and we're trying to be there and be seen. But it's also exhausting. And sometimes, like, I don't want to be seen. They say you have to be on your Instagram, on your stories, face to face every day, however many slides a day. And for me, that's just not plausible, because most days I look awful and feel awful.
that just can't simply be true. Part of your job, obviously, is to coach and nurture brands and BAME influencers on the idea of themselves, their messages, their authenticity. When brands approach you, do you think, are they approaching you because they generally want to change? Do you sometimes feel like there's an element of tokenism, which is something that I think has been a really big conversation amongst young people?
I have a dream team. Everyone in my team currently, we had a team.
And you're all, are you still female, all female led?
Female, we need to diversify. I'm not going to lie to you. We're not a diverse team. We're all female and we're all black or black mixed race. So we lack diversity in our team, 100%. We're all cis women, and as far as I'm aware, we're all straight. So there's definitely some holes that have poked as we've grown our team and people have left, and we need to diversify. But the team are very good at understanding what's right and what's wrong, and I'm very happy to be able to just, if I'm not doing something, because I don't cover everything, there's this interpretation of who I like, what my role is in my company, and everyone thinks I just do everything. I'm just like, I don't do things. I lead the digital team, and I do a lot of the social media related things, but I don't do that much on the campaign side unless it's ideation. And it's quite interesting because my team they nail it. Tokenism is something that we take into account, but something that we're very good at, which I've found, is that someone might come with us with not the best intention, in the sense that they need to tick a box and fill a gap. But what they end up with isn't a tick boxing exercise, because we look after so many people that it's like, okay, you wanted this person, that's great, but you wanted a mixed race, loose curled, palatable Black person, and we're going to give you her. But also, we're going to give you this person who has a darker skin tone. We're going to give you this person who is from the LGBTQ community. We're going to give you this person who's, you know, a different size. And we're going to give you more than that person that you've asked for, because this will diversify your feed. This will make sure that your campaign is right. Sometimes they don't take that on board, and we're dealing with that in our own way, in the sense that we're trying to understand their feedback, so then we can feed back to them what the issue is. Because a lot of it sounds lame and I hate to talk about it, but it is a lot of unconscious bias that hasn't been brought to the surface yet. And we see that with colour. So colorism is really rife in our industry, in the sense that when we think about Black women on the internet, we think of people maybe that look like me. And yes, I do identify as a Black woman, but I have to also say that I'm a Black mixed race woman. I have a white mum, I have a very light skin tone, and I have a looser curl type. So yes, I am a Black woman, but I am not the representative of all Black women. So we have to talk about this a lot with brands. Also, I have very European features. If I am pitching someone to you who has a darker skin tone or has more African features, you have to understand that they have the same worth, maybe even more than me. There are people that we can pitch who would do better, and we're doing that because it makes sense for your campaign, not because we're trying to get lots of people work. That comes in. That is a point. We are trying to get work for our influencers, but we only pitch the right people for the right brands. So this is something that we struggle with a little bit, but it's something that we're talking very openly about. And colorism and featureism, there's just such a big issue. And that's not just within the Black community as well. That happens in a lot of the Asian, Southeast and Southeast Asian communities, in the sense that people are looking for one type of person, but actually we need to kind of look at all people, and let's just look at their engagement rather than their skin tones. And I think this is where we're going wrong in the diversity conversation, in that we use the term BAME, or we're talking about people of colour, when actually you just want an influencer. It shouldn't matter if they're Black or brown or, you know, have a darker skin tone or whatever. You should just be looking at the kind of content that they're creating, what that would give to you as a brand, and what kind of engagement rate and ROI you're going to receive from that. And if you can ensure that your campaign is authentically diverse, because you personally have an authentically diverse outlook and Instagram feed, that you're constantly looking at people because you follow lots of different types of people and not just that one traditional sense of an influencer, it will be a lot easier, and your life will be a lot easier, because you won't have to outsource to agencies. You won't have to come to agencies like mine, because it'll just be your norm.
I mean, I was going to ask you, you know, the advice that you give to a young person starting a kind of branding, or who's desperate to get into branding and marketing today. But to be honest, you've answered that 1,000 times over. I mean, you've been so insightful. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, I could honestly talk to you for hours and hours and hours. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for joining us. That was really inspiring and great. And a massive congratulations to your brand, and well done for growing so quickly.
Thanks so much.
Today, I set up a savings goal with NatWest, so in a few months,
I'll be on my way to finally sorting this room out.
camel or sand? Sand.
NatWest. Tomorrow begins today.